This week on Grow Up Level Up Gamers Club, I am going to try to convince Jordan to play Monster Hunter, aka my Monster Hunter Wilds review. This is the Grow Up Level Up Gamers Club. Cue the intro. Oh yeah. Welcome back to Grow Up Level Up Gamers Club, the podcast where we talk about all the reviews, previews, impressions, topics that are relevant in your video game realm today. We focus on the games that are worth your time in your 5 to 9 after your 9 to 5. As 9 to 5 workers ourselves, we are busy. Who are we? My name is Samson, aka Samson XP on the internet. I like to play video games, if that is not apparent. And joined to me today, of course, is Sir Dr. JM, aka Jordan.
That's me.
Yeah. Jordan, you're coming off a cold, so we won't make you yap on too much, but I just want to know, how was your week? How's your weekend?
I spent most of the weekend sick and most of the work week trying to feel better. Haven't been gaming a ton, but I have been watching a little show called...
Oh.
This is not going to be what you expect. The Traitors. Have you heard of this show?
No.
All right.
Is it like a antique road show kind of thing?
No. Traitors, like.
Oh, the Traitors,
like betrayal kind of thing. You know?
Oh, okay. Tell me more. Give me your pitch.
It's all right. So it's a reality show where basically they get, however many people. I don't remember exactly. Let's call it 20. They get 20 people. They stick them all in a castle in Scotland, and they all actually, you'll like the premise. They sit them all around a round table. It's hosted by Alan Cumming. Do you know who Alan Cumming is?
No, let me Google him real quick.
He played.
Sounds familiar though. Actually,
you'll recognize him for sure. He played Floop in Spy Kids.
Oh yeah, he was. Was he in? He wasn't in Hunger Games, was he? But he was in Spy Kids. I do recognize him. I know
exactly who you're thinking of, but no, kind of similar look. But anyways, It's hosted by him. So they set all these people around a big round table. They blindfold them all, and then they pick. I think it's like 2 or 3 people who are going to be the traitors. The traitors get to know who the other traitors are, but nobody else knows who the traitors are. So the traitors' goal is to make it to the end. They make it to the end. They get the prize money. They call the other people the Faithfuls. The Faithfuls' goal, of course, also to make it to the end, but to eliminate all the traitors. If any traitors make it to the end, then the Faithfuls that also made it to the end lose. So, Of course, each week there's a banishment where everyone sits at the round table again and yells at each other about who they think the traitors are. And then they banish someone. That person has to get in the circle of truth and say if they're a traitor or a faithful, and they have to be honest about it because they're off the show at that point.
The circle of truth. Is it? Yes. Is it an actual circle?
It is. It is quite literally a circle on the floor.
Cool.
And then after the banishment, everyone goes to bed. But the traitors get together in secret and they murder someone. And then the next morning, everyone trickles into breakfast in the dining hall, except for the person who was murdered, of course. And that's how they find out who was murdered, right? So anyways, it's a reality show, but it's very similar to if you've ever played Secret Hitler or The Resistance. Very
Werewolf.
Similar to those. Yeah, Werewolf. Very similar. Yeah. I've played all 3 of those. So it's kind of like that, but gamified. And then, of course, every episode there's a challenge where they earn money, and that's how they build the prize pool. So.
Oh, yeah. What is it on? Streaming or?
I should mention, I don't know which is the original. Like there's this one that I'm watching where they go to this castle in Scotland, but the entire cast is American. So it's the first season is a mix of like regular people and B-list celebrities kind of thing. The second season seemed like it was almost entirely B-list. I would even say C-list celebrities. I think there was maybe like one average dude on that season.
Oh, okay.
And I think the third season is currently ongoing. So basically over the past week or so, I've binged through like 2 seasons. But
that's pretty cool.
there's that season, which may be the original. I'm not sure. There's also a Traitors England or something like that, where it's an entirely British cast. And then I found out today there's also a Traitors Canada.
We gotta get that.
They're casting for season 3 right now. And I'm so in the thick of this, I might just apply to be on the Traitors. We'll see.
Yeah, how do we get on that list? That's awesome.
Yeah, so anyways, I haven't been gaming a lot, but I've been watching a lot of the Traitors. I'm really into it.
It's kind of like a game. It's kind of like a game.
I'm a big fan of Survivor, so it's kind of similar kind of thing. They talking in secret and voting people out and doing challenges and everything. So it's a lot of fun. And sorry, to answer your question, I've been watching what I call the original one, which is Americans in Scotland, and it's on Crave in Canada.
Crave,
here.
okay,
So
yeah, that's a Canadian network.
Yes, exactly. That's why.
Yeah. You know what? I actually do have Crave. I think it's like included in my phone plan of all things.
Perfect. You should check it out. It's a fun show, honestly. Like Alan Cumming as the host is like he knows what it is, and he totally buys into it and plays the part of, welcome to my castle, and here one of you will be murdered every night. And he totally like plays into it really big, and it's just great.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I mean, while we're on this topic of werewolves and mafia and traitor, when I worked as a summer camp leader, we would do overnights. Like I worked as an overnight summer camp leader during the summer. So it was like 8 weeks. It was pretty much the whole summer I'd work there. Where the camp counselors would stay like Monday to Friday. So what one camp director one year did, shout out to Calder, he started organizing week-long mafia/werewolf campaigns.
Oh, cool.
So night one would literally be the first night of the camp, and this was just for the staff. Like this was just for the staff to do.
Okay.
To like, I don't know, build morale or whatever. But eventually, like, it grew to that each staff took a week and organized. They became like the DM of the week and had a theme and a story. It was really fun. But
that's cool.
Basically, how it would work is like night zero, so like Sunday night, Monday morning, you'd get your roles, and then throughout the day you would check in with whoever was running the campaign. So if it was me, so and so would come up to me and be like, it's like, I would like to kill whoever.
Nice.
And then that's the way. And then in the nighttime, and there's the other roles too, like Cupid, detective. Throughout the day, like just be like, hey, I need to ask you something, Samson. Like, can we use the low ropes course first? And also, I'd like to kill Sally. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. And I'd like note that down.
Yeah.
And then at night, after all the kids go to bed, all the camp counselors get together and be like,
reveal what happened throughout the day.
Yeah, today Sally went to the low ropes course, tripped over the trapdoor and fell, and the rope sliced her throat or something.
That's amazing.
So it was fun, and it was like a week-long thing. It was like a summer camp thing. So nice. I think I would enjoy this show. I do miss playing that.
Give it a shot. I don't know how into reality TV you are, but it's fun. That's
I could get into it. But we're not here to talk about murder mystery, although it is one of the best modern games. That's a topic for another day, but we are here to talk about my Monster Hunter Wilds review. I'm calling it a review. I'm also calling it, I'm going to try to convince Jordan to play Monster Hunter. I'm surprised that he hasn't ever played it before. It's been a franchise for so long. But for those who do not know, Monster Hunter Wilds was released onto the world about a week ago. Just pulling up the exact date, February 28th, 2025. So it is March 7th by the time this episode comes out. So it's been out for about a week. And it is an action game from Capcom where a player controls a hunter that is part of a guild assigned to explore the forbidden lands. Nearly uninhabitable. No, wait. Nearly inhabitable. That's why I was having trouble. Novel area with multiple biomes, dangerous storms, and of course big monsters. The goal of the game is to hunt these monsters, collect them for information, resources, and build better armor and weapons, and just keep doing it over and over again. So this is like I don't even know which entry in the game, maybe like 10th in the Monster Hunter series. There's been so many, lots of spin-offs as well. And then this game's incredibly popular. I think as of 3 days after its release, Wilds sold 8 million copies, which is Capcom's fastest selling game to date. And I forgot to mention this at the top, but Wilds is the next mainline entry into the Monster Hunter series. Like I said, there are spin-offs, and people are saying that this is the direct sequel to Monster Hunter World, which came out 2017, 2018. And that what is, I think, still to this day, Capcom's best-selling game ever. So Monster Hunter Wilds has a lot of pedigree, a lot of history, and now it's out. People are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, surprisingly. I actually wasn't planning on picking up this game until about 2 days before it came out. After hearing, I've become influenced, like I saw all the reviews, saw all the ads, all my friends were getting into it, and I'm like, you know what, maybe it is time to dive back in. A little bit about my history with Monster Hunter. My first one was actually, I came in pretty late because the game has been around since like, I want to say the PS2 days. You can fact check me on that, Jordan.
That's kind of what I've actually been looking up here while you've been talking.
Yeah.
I believe there's about, Google results vary, but 19 to 25 entries in the Monster Hunter series. The first one appears to have come out in 2004, with, of course, the most recent one coming out just over a week ago, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so this has been around a long time.
PS, I'm not sure. It doesn't say what console this first one came out on. I know I played a demo for, I want to say, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite on PSP in 2008. I'm going to guess you're probably right about the PS2.
Yeah. So like the PSP one was, I think, when it started getting traction in North America. I remember lining up at the community center to go play badminton, and there's a group of guys like just ahead of us, like 3-4 guys with their PSPs playing Monster Hunter with each other while waiting in line.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, oh, that's an interesting game.
Awesome.
Like, I didn't know much about it until years later, when the 3DS came out. My buddy at the time, Chris, shout out to Chris, he mentioned like, hey, it's like there's this game called Monster Hunter. You don't like get levels. You don't you grind, but you don't have to like grind a
for
character
XP
over and over XP farm. Yeah, you're not doing that. You basically go out, hunt the monster, get the resources, build the weapon, and then like you can even build a more powerful weapon even if you've never used this weapon before. Taking a step back, there are 14 weapons in Monster Hunter, so there's basically 14 different playstyles. I don't want to say there's one that's better than the other. It's all personal preference. But you basically can like, hey, I want to try out the great sword now after spending 10 hours on the hammer, which is kind of what I did. You could just build the next great sword instead of starting from level 1. So anyways, that's how he pitched the game to us, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. Like, I do like monsters, of course, right? So
who doesn't?
I picked up Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and at this time, this was when the special edition came out. So here's a picture of it.
Nice.
It's like a very sick
I was gonna say,
special edition of the 3DS XL.
Yeah.
And it just came out just at the right time that I was going to upgrade anyways. So I picked this up and got, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate reinstalled. Nice. And I sunk a lot of hours into this. I don't remember how much. It's been too long, but enough that I got my money's worth. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I kind of fell off Monster Hunter all the way. Wow. Well, I played World, but I didn't get as deep into it as I can because I think with World, they introduced a lot more features, and it was a little overwhelming. Like, they introduced farming. And I was like, I don't want to farm.
Like actual like seeds and corn and
you crops. Like gather corn, you plant it, and then it grows into resources that you can use. And then I got a little overwhelmed, but I did the story there, but and then I fell off. I didn't do the DLC or the post game or anything. And then Monster Hunter Rise came out, but it was on the Switch, so I didn't really want to do that.
Right.
And then Wilds came out, picked it up after hearing all the comments that like they got a lot of the quality of life stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Or they got a lot of new quality of life stuff. It loads great. It's a lot more seamless. It's frictionless. Borrowing a word from Kind of Funny. It's frictionless. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. So I got it, and I can say, like, it lives up to the hype. It is a very smooth playing. I don't know if nostalgic's the right word, but it feels right. Like, it feels just right with how the game feels, the sounds, the story, the gameplay loop. It feels good. Now, that's with an asterisk because I do have some critiques. But for overall, I'd give this game, if we're doing the review scale, a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
Nine craft beers out of 10. I have some gripes with it, but I can't wait to go back. Like, it's a game that I'm looking forward to playing again. And you know me, like I'm not really the action
Grindy.
game slaying monster grindy guy. But this,
I was just gonna say how many hours or how far into it are you right now?
So I checked right before the show started. I am 15 hours in.
Okay.
I've already beaten the story, and so I'm very much into post game.
Right.
And we'll just dive into it. The story is more of like a super long tutorial that feels like a Fast and Furious movie. So it goes fast. It teaches you things.
Okay.
And I think this is where I find Wilds better than World. World, it just assumes you've played Monster Hunter before, so it bombards you with all the basics, which is fine. But then it also bombards you with all its new features, like the farming. I don't know why I keep harping on the farming. It wasn't that bad. Yeah, darn having to play Stardew Valley in my monster game.
That's right.
They just bombard you with a lot of mechanics. And then for Wilds, they actually like there's the story, but yeah, it feels like a Fast and Furious movie. One thing that they did is that one big part of Monster Hunter is actually having to track a monster down, right? You leave your camp, you go out, you start to follow the fauna, the steps, and then you find the monster, and you actually have to chase it a little while. You tag it with a paintball, and then might be like, oh, there's someone coming. The monster runs off, you have to find it. So that is actually a big part of Monster Hunter. And during the story, I don't think I did a single bit of that.
Oh, okay.
The Secrid, the new like chocobo character or animal that you can ride.
Yeah.
Your mount, yeah. You could just press up on your D-pad and it'll just start running towards the monster. Even if the monster runs off.
It catches the scent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even if the monster runs off, like in older games, you'd have to like tag it and then track it down again to beat it up. But in the story, at least where I'm at, the Secrid just follows. And that's pros and cons, right? Because like, it took off a lot of what made the hunting part of Monster Hunter, not just the killing part, like the tracking and the patience.
Yeah.
And it turned it into Fast and Furious, where it's just all action scenes and you're beating on a monster, which was actually, I didn't hate it because I was like, yeah, I want to go back and just beat these monsters. It's been too long since I was smashing a monster.
So what
with my hammer?
You describe it as, or that's really interesting because I didn't really realize that was, a part of previous games, the actual kind of act of hunting. And of course, you saying all these things, I think of podcasts and whatever coverage of past games that the dots are connecting, right? I remember people talking about, you tag it with a paintball and then you got to kind of follow the trail. And I know I've heard those things before, but I think I really put the whole picture together where that was actually like a part of the mechanics was tracking and hunt and, getting to a point where, hey, now I'm at the stage where I can, basically jump this guy. So I'm curious with in how you describe it with your chocobo wannabe, chasing after the monster thing.
Yeah.
How open or not, and again, this comes from mostly a place of ignorance, how open or not is the world?
So it's pretty open world, but I would say it's more like really big zones.
Okay.
So you'd be in the forest world. And it's like, it's more of like a technical limitation of the day back then. You have a big field, you run to a certain point and it's like, we got to load everything again. Right. So here's zone 2 and it's just the next part of the big field. And there's little tunnels and nooks and trees that you go through that the world kind of builds around. For this one, I guess because of technology, there's like a desert biome that's huge. Eventually you hit a certain point where it transitions into the forest biome. That's also huge. Same with like the cave, slight spoilers, but there's going to be a cave, there's going to be a snow area in this nature kind of game. So it is quite open. Now, I said in the story, like the chocobo, I called the Secrid, I think they're actually called, but I called mine Fart. You can rename it. I just couldn't think of a better name at the time.
We take gaming seriously here.
Oh yeah. named a cat after my actual cat, and I named my bird Fart. Like you can you can hit the auto go on your chicken, but you can also just like manually steer it a different way and start hunting a completely different monster. Like the story objective is always there, but you can always break off and come back to it later.
And it is kind of like the monsters are in the world, right? If you're doing a mission to go after the whatever Rathalos or something. See, I know a few things. You could just, hey, I'm heading towards it, but I get distracted and I go take out a completely different monster or something. You could, hey? Okay.
Yep. And you can farm them, grab the materials, go back. Like there are a couple times in the story where I'm like, ooh, I really want to finish this armor set before I take on the next story beat.
Right.
But the weird, interesting thing is like the story just keeps going. So it's like, oh, the next monster is active already. You just have to go to it. But I'm like, oh, I'm going to sidetrack over here and beat up these monkeys and build the rest of my armor, and then I'll go back to it. And it was fine. It was pretty seamless. Like a lot of previous Monster Hunter games would be like, you have to talk to your quest board, the handler person, and be like, I want to do this mission. And now you're locked, right? Like you're saying, you're locked into this mission.
Yeah.
There's other things in older games where you have to go out on expeditions where you just do like research and you're researching plants and berries and stuff. And then now in this game, while you're riding your Sekrid, you can just like shoot your Spider-Man grapple and grab berries on your way. And that's pretty much. Grab a bug, grab a poop, a dung.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like a lot faster, which I was surprised by. I don't know if that was introduced earlier. I think it was introduced in Rise. And some of that was in World as well, but this was like a lot faster, which is why I was like, cool. I saw a lot of reviews say it took them 20 hours to beat the story, but I finished it in 13 or 14.
Well, you're a pro,
I did a little bit of post game. I just press forward and I use a hammer, so I just bonk them with the hammer over and over again.
Coming back to the riding the mount and everything, does it feel like, I guess, with the sort of option to auto hunt or whatever, have your mount take you directly to the monster? Does it feel a little like the open worldness of it all is somewhat unnecessary?
That's a good question. I want to say
it strikes me. I was just gonna say it strikes me as like, if you're giving me the option to just, hey, golden path it to this monster, why wouldn't you give me the option to just warp to the monster, right? Hey, press a button and I'm at the arena where I'm ultimately going to face off against this thing, right?
Yeah, I think because so far I've only really done the story and like one mission after. I want to say that after the story part, there's a post game. I think there's even like post story stuff where it keeps teaching you new mechanics. For some reason, they just had like a couple set pieces they wanted you to play through. That does teach you the basics. But I do think that like as monsters get harder and harder, your Sekrid won't be able to track them down as fast. You have to be a little more smart with the way the monsters migrate around. And plan ahead. So I want to say like that comes a little later. That's the Sekrid is really convenient though when you're like, I know, like, let's just hunt this. I always make fun of names like Cuckoo Poo Poo. And then well, let's just go. Like the Sekrid saves so much time. And it also helps with traversing a lot as well. It just like before you have to like have your little guy climb up the vines. But now the Sekrid, you're like zipping up the tree. And it just saves a lot of time. You can like sharpen your blade on it. You can heal while moving super fast. I think it just speeds up the game. I can see a point, and maybe I'm just not there yet, where it will get more challenging, like with having to track, having to slow down and like really find the monster again. Like even the first, well, this is kind of spoilers, but one of the missions after the main story, I actually did have to look around a little bit with my Sekrid. It didn't just beeline to the monster.
Cool.
So that does come back, but it is kind of like interesting that they made it that easy or not easy. They took out a big part of the hunting part, which is the tracking for the story, and now they're slowly bringing it back again, but I also think that's a plus because
Yeah.
in World, like it was really overwhelming
Right.
with the amount of mechanics that it just introduced in the first 5 hours.
It sounds
farming.
It sounds a lot like maybe they kind of took some of those criticisms of was it World that you said?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like they maybe took some of those criticisms of World and kind of said, okay, how do we make it easier for people to get in before we, present some of the almost more major hurdles, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that because
Cool.
it really does feel like, and I try not to spoil the story too much, but it does feel like Fast and Furious, Mission Impossible. You're just going through these crazy set pieces. The actual story is like interesting enough,
right?
You have some funny performances, but all the characters are just so dang charming, which is back to the Fast and Furious thing. And yeah, I was surprised that like when the story ended, I'm like, oh, that's it. But I always knew that like the post game in Monster Hunter is where the meat of it is. Yeah, I just had the frosting. Now it's like the actual cake part.
Right.
Yeah. But I would say that's a pro. Like the story, the pacing of everything is good so far. I know I'm still learning new things to have to do in the post game. So it's called a post game, but the real game's just getting started.
Yeah, totally. Have you been playing with someone else or other people?
It's interesting how the online works or how the multiplayer works. So one really big headache in World, it was such a headache, I don't even remember how exactly it worked anymore. Not necessarily the matchmaking. It was more like, hey, I want to play the story. But then I want to like have my friend come in and we could do the story together.
Right.
Doesn't really work
that way
seamlessly. Like it works, but then it'll be like playing Hunt the Monster. Yay, we did it. I haven't encountered this cutscene yet, but my friend did. Now my friend's like stuck at a black screen while I'm watching a like couple minute long cutscene.
Right.
And that happens a couple times. So it was pretty janky. This one is way more smooth. I think they that was one of the criticisms that really irked people. Now it's like you form a party up to 4 called a link party. And you're technically in the same party, but you don't see each other in the same world unless you also do an environment link, which is just so we can see each other.
Okay.
Yeah, right. But we're in the same like world. And then when I start a mission, whether it's story or like or an optional mission or whatever, everybody in that lobby of 4 will get an invite saying like, Samson just started a quest. And then they get the option to join.
Oh, cool.
And then if, like, say my buddy joins on me, we do the mission, beat the monster, and then we, like, harvest the monster after for parts. And then I move on to the story. My buddy gets kicked or, like, moved back to his own world or camp. And then he moves on to his own thing. Like, but if I think they're also on that story beat, then they also get served the cutscene and their story progresses. So it's a lot more seamless, thankfully. And it's nice to be like, yeah, I'm like hunter rank 9, my other buddy is just 4, he's still working through the story, like I can hop in, help him with the monster, and then hop out and do my own thing. So I haven't been playing with like one specific person, but there have been times where we interacted. And now that I'm in the post game and I'm kind of caught up with my other friends who have been playing all weekend, I think we can like start to actually target the harder monsters together and farm armor and stuff. So it does work pretty well. Some of the language around connecting was weird at first, but now that we understand, it's like, oh, you need to be in a link party, and then there's squads and guilds and friends lists and all that to navigate with.
Right.
Yeah, it's not perfect, I wouldn't say.
Right on.
But yeah, those are my pros. I would say the biggest pro is that just the game feels good. It's been a while since I picked this up on PS5 instead of my PC because I heard the PC optimization wasn't the best. So I'm like, I'm not gonna risk it for like $100 Canadian video game. I'm like, I'm just gonna have it on PS5 where people have been saying it's fine. So like probably because of the console optimization, I'm like, oh, this is pretty fun, and that's why I keep going back to it. Or it's pretty smooth, so I keep going back to it. But yeah, we didn't even dive into like weapons or armor and how that works. But I played a hammer. trying to figure out what my secondary weapon is because you can carry 2. Trying to switch axe. Don't know if I like it. The great sword is just kind of like another hammer, so I don't see a point of carrying both. So I'm playing around, and that's kind of nice. It's like in the lore of the game, you're a hunter who's already trained, so you already know how to use all these weapons. It's just a matter of getting better and better ones. Yeah.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any? Did I change your mind at all, Jordan? How do you feel about this so far?
So, I mean, the funny thing is, like I said, my only past experience with Monster Hunter, and when I say past, I mean in the past, was, I believe, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite on PSP. They released a free demo. And I distinctly remember being in my bedroom late at night one night when I was probably supposed to be sleeping before school. And I had my PSP. And I went on the store and was like, there are free demos on here? And I just started downloading them. And I remember, Monster Hunter, Rock Band on PSP, and there was one other. And I downloaded the 3 of them. And I would just play those. It was maybe like a 20-minute demo, and I would just play it over and over again. And from what I recall, the Monster Hunter one, you got to choose one of 3 weapons, but I don't remember what they were. And I remember playing it and being like, I don't understand why people like this. It felt very clunky. It felt like it didn't teach me enough. And at the time, I mean, I was not playing games like that. I wasn't, playing Demon Souls or anything like that. Or I guess it would have been Demon Souls at the time. So I just really didn't have the vocabulary, the gaming vocabulary to wrap my head around it. So I bounced from that pretty quick. I actually tried the beta for Wilds. One of the betas. I think they did 2 public betas on PS5. They may have been on PC as well, but of course I tried it on PS5. And I think my problem was, well, twofold. One, I didn't feel like reading at the time. And it does throw a number of menus at you in the beginning, right? Trying to teach you how tutorializing it, right? And I was kind of like, okay. Teach me what buttons I need to push to make things happen. And I remember once I got through that, getting a little overwhelmed with the button combinations of like hold L1 and then press circle to do this, but hold L1 and press triangle to do this. But then when you're not holding L1, if you press circle, it does something completely different. And I know with the beta, I got a little confused by that. But I also wonder how much of it was me not understanding the different weapons as well. I'm wondering if I picked a weapon that I thought just looked kind of cool. And I'm sure it probably said in the tutorial as well, hey, pick this weapon if you're a little more advanced with hunting monsters. And I was probably like, that one looks cool. So I picked it. So
too many menus.
Yeah. I mean, have you changed my mind? You're convincing me, because I think having someone who's maybe a little more experienced to say, hey, maybe start with the hammer, or maybe start with whatever you said, the greatsword. Don't go for the dual blades or the glaive or the pole arm or something like that. Maybe don't go for those more advanced weapons off the rip, and maybe you'll have a better time. It sounds like, honestly, I think about this all the time. Like, I would love to go back and play Dark Souls 1, 2, 3. But a big problem that I have with those games, and even Demon Souls, which I actually own and have played a little bit, one of my big problems with those games is they don't always tell you super clearly where to go after finishing an area. So you finish an area, you warp back to the sort of hub world, and then it gives you like 2 or 3 other places to go. And it has no indication on which is the best place to go or the easiest place to go next. And so I think about a lot of games like that as what I would call stream games, where they'd be fun to stream with a chat that is engaged and that will help you when you ask for it. You can say, hey, chat, where do I go next? And they go, oh, go to world 2-1 or 3-1, even though you just did 4-1, right? I see Monster Hunter in kind of a similar vein, where if there was someone there to kind of be like, hey, maybe pick this weapon, start with that, let's do a couple missions so you start to understand how it works before you jump into, something, a more advanced weapon and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I like what I'm hearing. I really like the style and the look of the game. Obviously, it's a
Oh
beautiful
yeah,
game, and the monster designs are just cool, right? Like there's no other way to describe this game other than like it just looks cool, right? The big ass weapons and the huge armor. I've seen, you know, this. I follow it.
yeah.
I have a friend who's playing, and he posts on Instagram, and he's got these like purple feather or shoulder pads that are like bigger than his head, and I'm like, ah, that looks cool. I love it. It's like very Craven the Hunter from Spider-Man or something.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
So you know,
it's very much a power fantasy.
yeah.
Like, I mean, literally, it's fantasy, and you're building
Totally.
power.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm getting there. It's convincing to hear these things.
Yeah, I mean, I empathize with your struggle in the beginning with like all the overwhelmingness. Like, I don't really like this weapon.
Yeah.
The button combination thing, I don't think I'll ever get used to, and
Okay.
I've been playing for a while
Okay.
because, like, I played the hammer because the main combo is just mashing triangle or mashing circle, right? And then you go to something like the switch axe, where it's called the switch axe because it changes from sword to axe, and you'll do like, all right, now you'll flail, you'll wild charge 6 times,
Right.
switch, and then you're hitting, and then you want to switch back and forth. So there's like a fighting game element to it,
Right.
where you are mashing different button combinations and all that. But I would say like pretty much most of the weapons, it does just use the same 2 to 3 action buttons, and it's kind of the different combinations and ways you mash them to do different combos, and they function differently. That's kind of where they cross over, but I think that's also the appeal, is because they all function differently. Like I said, I like using the hammer. Like, it can't block, but it does a lot of damage, and I don't need to think too hard about what button combinations there are. But I also know, like, if I chose to play dual blades, which is like very fast, stabby slash, like, I'll have a completely different experience fighting the monster, and it's an exciting new thing to learn. So yeah, lots of options, but it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think if you're just starting, the sword and shield, like, as basic as it sounds, right? You're like, oh, I could be sword and shield in Dark Souls and Elden Ring. I don't want to play sword and shield
board.
again here. Yeah. but it is like the very like every man's weapon, because it's got a block. It's got the sword, like stab, move, slash, all that. So it is a good starting weapon, and then you can work your way towards like like a great sword or the insect glaive. I don't even know how to use that. The hunting horn I want to learn as well. Those are some of the newer ones.
Glaive rings a bell. That might be what I tried during the beta.
Oh, that's a tough one.
I think it was like there's like different. It literally is like, okay, when you're using this, there's different like colored bugs that you have to grapple to power it up or something, and it depending on the colors you get or the color combinations or something, it changes the way it does damage. Like if you get a bunch of green bugs, it does poison or something like that.
It is, yeah.
And I was just
you could customize your bug.
I was just like, what is happening here? So that rings a bell though.
Nope. Just hammer, just smash circle, and you just bonk them until your character says, all right, that's enough bonks.
Yeah. Okay, we squished it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
But yeah, that's part of the appeal. It is overwhelming though, and the other thing I want to say is, like, I feel like I wouldn't have played this game at all if my buddy didn't say like, let's give it a try together.
Right.
And at that time, he's played a couple of the other PSP ones, so he knows what's going on, and that I kind of got onboarded that way. With going off to hunts and being like, oh, we have to track it. And at first I'm like, it's kind of boring, you know, we have to hold W. But then when it's like you're in person this is kind of like a core memory. I think we were at a bar on like a Friday night, and we all had our 3DSs, and we were just playing Monster Hunter at the bar.
Nerds.
These early 20-year-olds. And it was like, and then we were like giving each other commands. It's like, oh, I got the tail. It's like it's almost sliced off, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll come help. And we sliced off the tail. I'm like, great. And then it's like, oh, I think it went to number 13. It's like, okay, I'm just sharpening a whetstone. I'll be right there. And yeah, it's got that. It's got that like E3 demo kind of element to it.
That's cool.
And yeah, it's different now because we're all online, but it's still there. I'm still catching up to some of my buddies who are like Hunter rank 30, and then we'll come back and see. At the same time, also have some friends that haven't started the game yet because they're on vacation. So I'm looking forward to playing some more.
What hunter rank are you? That sounds important.
I think I'm just 8 or 9.
Oh,
I think yeah. You don't finish the story at a very high rank, and I think it just goes on forever because with these Monster Hunter games, they do about a year or 2 of live service. Like every couple months, they'll release a new monster, and that new title monster comes with a couple other smaller monsters to go hunt and farm and get your items, and then they'll have DLC and all that. So it's young. I'm glad I got in early this time because then it's like everyone's discovering together.
What is like the end goal then? If you've beaten the story and like you say, you build better weapons and things, is there like, if you're playing with the hammer, can you max out the hammer and then you would move on to, hey, now I'm going to max out another weapon or something like that?
You could actually, yeah, that's one way to do it. But the armor and the hammer and all that is like tied to different monsters.
Oh, okay.
So you have like a Rathalos hammer, like we mentioned earlier. Yes. And then you can max that out as much as you can. But eventually there's going to be like a bigger dragon, and then you'll be like, oh, I want that guy's hammer.
Okay.
So then you go hunt him, build your hammer. And that's same with the armor, like different sets are based off of different monsters. So you can do that. And then there's also like the little min-max stuff, like, oh, I'm going to attach a little talisman to it.
Right.
It's like this vial increases this and that stat.
5% stagger or something.
Yeah. Okay. Stuff like that. It's like, oh, my hammer will poison them if I hit them the right way. So there's a lot of that in the post game. But yeah, in terms of like at the end of it all, I think you just keep going until you get it all or you don't want to. Yeah. Because you can always, and I think this is where all the weapons come in, because you can max out the hammer and be like, all right, I finished all the hammer stuff I want to do. Maybe I'll learn great sword next, and now you have a whole other track of stuff to hunt and to do 14 times at least. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So that's my Monster Hunter review, more or less, 9 out of 10. It is really fun. I want to say it's a big time sink,
right? But
also at the same time, it's not the hardest game in the world. It's just kind of like prioritizing, like it's definitely not harder than a Dark Souls or an Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like prioritizing what you want to do in the world, and I don't know. I just like seeing monsters more than skeleton guys, I guess. So I'm more
drawn
much
towards
more
than
this.
Skeleton guys in Elden Ring.
There's dogs and giants.
There are those, yes, but there are also Tyrannosaurus birds. So
true. Yeah, well, there are spiders in Monster Hunter. There's spiders in Elden Ring.
There are definitely spiders. There are also hand spiders that look like hands, but spiders. But anyways,
I think I saw those guys.
You probably have.
I just remember walking into a catacomb once, and then like a gargoyle jumped my back.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, I was so scared.
I will always stand by the fact that those games are also horror games. For as RPG adventure, that they are very much horror games. Nothing makes me more tense than Bloodborne. So, yeah.
I mean, at the opposite end, Monster Hunter is kind of a funny game.
Yeah.
They kind of leaned away from some of the funny animations, I think.
Okay.
In this one, because in the old games, actually, this is a big change. In the old games, when you give up on a hunt, it's like an option. You're like give up or whatever. Then your hunter like runs away in the most like
very anime,
Japanese
like,
comedy, like way possible. Like these hands up really fast and you just run away. But I guess in this new one, if you want to run away, you can just hop on your second and start
just go the other way.
Go the other way. So I guess there's no funny animation when you.
I got you. That's fun.
So what do you think of Monster Hunter Wilds, listener? Have you tried it? Has this conversation swayed you? Let me know. That's all I've been playing this week. Jordan, have you been playing any other games this week before we close out our show? And I do have my special announcement.
Oh, yes. I haven't, like I said, I haven't really been playing much this week. Couple weeks back, I actually dove into the Stanley Parable Deluxe Edition.
Oh, okay.
it just hasn't come up on the show since I played through it. But yeah, it's kind of a hard game to talk about without spoiling it, because I really went in blind. I'm pretty sure I thought it was a different game than it wound up being. I'm pretty sure I thought it was a game called Superliminal, which is
that's a different game.
Is a different game, yes. And they're both kind of like, again, I don't want to like spoil too much, but they're both kind of like puzzly first person adventure, first person walking simulator kind of thing, right? Not too much like actual stuff to do other than experience it. And I think that's why I got them confused. But I dove into the Stanley Parable and I was pleasantly surprised with what it was doing and the sort of story it was telling. Again, I don't want to say too much without spoiling it in case anyone hasn't played it and, you know, they might want to or they plan to.
Like me.
Yes, exactly. And all I would really say is like, I spent probably 3 nights with it. It's definitely the kind of game you could be done with in, well, I mean, there's literally a trophy or a achievement for beating it in like under 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So you could just beeline it if you know the path and be done with it. But I spent 3 nights with it, probably at least 2 hours each of those nights. Some of them probably more like 3 or 4, because it's really a game that I think you get out of it how much you want to put into it. And as I kind of started unraveling things, I really wanted to see more and more of it. And it was one of the rare games where, like, when I wasn't playing it, I was Googling it and reading about it and trying to learn more about the way it's built. Again, I'm trying not to spoil anything. So yeah, if anyone's thinking about it, I would just say definitely jump in. It's a fun experience. There's no spooky spooks. There's no horror stuff. I'm always wary about a walking simulator. You know, I tried Gone Home once, and you know, you walk into this abandoned house, and I have looked it up before and have been told that there is absolutely no like spooky stuff in Gone Home. It's just the vibe you get. You just get this vibe walking into an empty house.
You can only walk through a creepy house.
Exactly.
And so hard.
Exactly. So there were times where I was like kind of on the edge of my seat, like, okay, something's going to jump out. And I promise you, if something ever does, it never happened to me. I didn't experience it. And like I say, I probably spent at least 8 or 9 hours in this game, which is easily like probably a 2 or 3 hour game for most people. So again, you get as much out of it as you put in, I think. I did get all the trophies except for one, and that trophy is for leaving the game running for a full 24-hour period on a Tuesday. That's the only trophy I have not gotten.
What?
And it's impossible to game that one. You have to literally just let the game run idle. Or, I mean, you could play it for that whole 24-hour period, but you literally have to just leave the game running for a full 24 hours and on a Tuesday in order to get that trophy. There's no way to rig the system. There's another trophy for not playing the game for a 10-year period. And that one you can rig because you can just play the game, quit out, change your system settings to 10 years in the future, and then launch in and you get the trophy. And that's exactly what I did because I'm a trophy whore.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, so I really, the more I put into it, the more I was like, I want to experience everything this game has to offer. So that's all I'll really say. It is like I do highly recommend it, but I also completely understand there's a lot of people who it just won't click with, and they just, you know, air quotes, they won't get it, right? And that feels a little like I'm superior because I get it and you don't. It's not. It's totally a flavor. It's totally a taste thing where I even when I was first kind of starting it out and like I was maybe an hour in, I was kind of like, I was on the edge of like, am I done with this? Like, have I had enough? Like, I get what it's doing. I understand the premise. And then I just kind of was like, okay, but I'm going to challenge myself to find something new. And then I did. And then I did again, and then I did again, and then I went down this rabbit hole of like, okay, now I want to see everything this game has to offer. And so
Interesting.
that's all I should say about it. Because again, don't want to spoil it. But if you ever get a chance to give it a try, then definitely do an update on the show, because I'm very curious to hear what other people think about it too.
Well, we might as well do like some sort of spoiler cast, I guess. This
right.
year's late spoiler cast. So it's always been on my radar, but I never had the chance or like motivation to do it. But I influence you, you influence me today. Goes both ways. I'll check it out. The Stanley Parable. Did you play the deluxe edition or like the regular? Because I see there's two.
You do want to play, I think it's Stanley Parable Super Deluxe Edition.
Okay. That's not like a... Yeah.
As far as I understand, from what I read, Stanley Parable did originally come out as just sort of a shorter experience. But the deluxe edition, from what I understand, does really offer a lot more. So,
Okay, cool. I added it to my wish list.
Cool.
Because next week is my birthday. So who knows who's looking at that wish list. So our special announcement, if you made it this far at the end of the episode, maybe we should have teased it at the top.
That's a good point.
I'll put a little title card that says "Stay tuned at the end" for a
right.
special announcement, just like a movie.
Yeah.
But if you made it this far, thank you. I just want to let you know that next week, instead of an episode, Jordan and I will do a special Samson's birthday live stream right here on YouTube, and maybe Twitch as well. No, just YouTube. Just YouTube.
Maybe I'll pull out my old Twitch channel and I'll stream.
Ooh, that would be cool. That'd be crazy.
We'll see. I'd have to move the PlayStation, bring it downstairs, so we'll see.
Yeah. But for next week, I think we're gonna do just a short-ish live stream. Spend your evening with us. Have a drink of water or whatever gamer juice you prefer, and celebrate my birthday. I think we're gonna do like some games. Jordan and I will be doing maybe some Overwatch, maybe some Jackbox if a lot of people are in the chat.
Cool.
And the special deal you get is, every subscription, you get to ask me anything, just like summer camp.
Ooh, perfect.
Actually, I don't know if that's
Did you have kids paying you to subscribe to summer camp?
To my YouTube channel for summer camp? No. It was like an end of summer camp thing. It's like, all right, kids, you can play Ask Me Anything. Except the rule is I get to nix any question I don't want to answer. Usually stuff like, are you married? Who's your girlfriend? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they were pretty good with it. So it was like, what's your job? And it's like, I work here at the summer camp. But yeah, come through, ask me anything, one sub, one AMA, I guess. And if we get a big crew going, maybe we'll run some Jackbox or play whatever game fancies us. Probably Overwatch. Jordan and I haven't played Overwatch together in a hot minute. Well, that brings us to the end of Grow Up, Level Up Gamers Club, the episode where I convinced Jordan to play Monster Hunter. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please subscribe, hit a like, share the episode, however you want to support us. Leave a comment, of course, of what you thought. If you want more, follow us at Grow Up Level Up. You can follow me directly at Samson XP on all the socials, or I'm trying to post more on Blue Sky, so at SMSN. Jordan, where can people find you if they want to do that sort of thing?
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at SirDrJM. That's Sir DRJM. And hey, maybe in the semi-near future, but probably not really near future, because obviously it would be a few months away to film and then be a few months of production. Maybe you'll see me on a future episode of, or season of, The Traitors Canada.
Ooh.
We'll see.
I'll be cheering you on. I really want to watch that now. I hope you get in. You got to let me know. You got to let me know. Speaking of letting me know, can you let us know, Jordan, what wise words do you have for us for the end of the day?
I absolutely will. And for today's wise words, I'm going to pull up the October 13th, 2009 issue of PC Gamer Presents 101 Reviews.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
There we go.
Big magazine?
No, it's not actually that big, but some of the reviews are like literally, that is the blurb on Fallout 3. It's like a paragraph or two.
63? That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, Operation Anchorage. It was for a DLC.
Oh,
not the game itself. All right. So, today's wise words shall be another issue of What Game Is This About?
Ooh.
Here's the quote. This should be pretty obvious. BioWare crafts a sci-fi universe that's worth saving. What game are they talking about?
let us know in the comments below. Goodbye, everybody.